Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Strand Tennis Center podcast, filled with tips, advice, tennis, not tennis, just life advice too, whatever you need. Like it on YouTube, share it on the podcast as well. Thank you. Santi, we ready to go? Ruthie, you'll take some calls. This will be a live one. This is during the day podcast, 11:15. We'll get some phone calls. We'll get the in and outs. As I interview Mr. Provenzano, Michael, who works here but also is working for Army. He's an assistant coach over there, so we wanted to talk about a little college life as well, discussing college pressers, what you need to do, how the goal set is different and all that stuff. And if Ruthie gets a call, we'll do customer service as well. Right, Ruthie? Sure. So, Mike, thank you for coming here, sir.
Absolutely.
So give me a couple of just observations of the Army situation since you've been doing this. Give us kind of a 360 view of your experience, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, so, I mean, at Army, the beauty of it is that these kids are already have self-discipline and good work ethic. So not to say that other teams don't, but you're going into a situation where these kids are already, very hardworking, disciplined, focused. So for us, I mean, the head coach and associate coach have been there for a while, but for me, kind of coming in, you're not really dealing with bad behavior where you have other situations on other teams where kids are, not a good GPA, getting kicked off, problems, issues. Yeah. There's really none of that going on, and it speaks to just the character of the kids on the team. So from that standpoint, it's kind of refreshing to deal with those kinds of kids, high quality kids and high quality people.
Do you find that you're talking about Army in general to other colleges, they're more disciplined?
Well,
because of the nature of the academy?
Yeah, I would just say in my experience, just knowing through my college playing and my brother's college teams and stuff like that, not to say that all teams, there's definitely disciplined teams out there, but I just think it's expected at Army that you're going to be dealing with focused, disciplined, high quality kids that are serious about their tennis, but also the tennis part of it for them is kind of a release because all the other stuff is, more intense. And
makes me think, are the curfews harder? Are they strict with are they more strict than other colleges in regards to curfews and things like that? Okay.
Yeah, so there's more, there's just other responsibilities that they have. I try not to bring that stuff up when I'm there with the guys, and we just try to keep it light and talk about tennis, talk about other stuff, because, they don't, that's kind of their escape. So, but yeah, it's just, I personally, they ask me, they're like, how was your normal college experience? What's it like? And for me, I'm it's great. And I was I could never do what you guys do. And they're like, oh, why do you say that? I'm just I'm just not wired that way. Yeah, so it's it takes a special kind of person to be do what they do.
Correct.
I got so much respect for anybody who's going to the military academy. So I know personally I wouldn't be able to do it at all. But, I just think it's you got to commend them for doing it.
Do you have an idea of their what's the day of their life of a cadet? What's the schedule like? Do you have an idea?
No, I roughly. I know they start early.
Okay.
They have. They have different types of training that they do. Early in the morning, and then they have their classes and stuff, and then practice and whatever in the afternoon.
How long's practice? 3 hours?
Usually 2,
okay.
Give or take. Afternoon, a couple hours, and then if guys do individuals or hit afterwards and stuff like that. But generally, team practice will be couple hours.
So there's no misconduct, obviously. So that's what
that's
you're saying.
The thing.
There's
it's just there's no nonsense.
There's no kid hungover. There's no in no sense of the word, coming in not prepared and all that stuff.
So that I've just happens more, I think, in general. I'm not saying every team.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have really disciplined teams that I have no clue about. But I just think in general you're dealing with a kid who is very.
So give me the coaching different. Say you teach a junior, a kid that's 10, a kid that's 12, a high school kid, even a decent high school kid. How is the coaching different? Give us a description of coaching as the phone rings. That's okay. That's part of the process, Mike.
Part of it. It's live.
We're live.
Yeah.
She can take the call.
It's live.
So how does it change?
I just think in terms of that level of player, I'm not going in there and telling them change this, change that. Technically, really, it's not a lot of technical stuff. Maybe it's a little bit certain things. I'm not like getting under the ball enough. All right, so then drop your whatever. But for the most part, I just think and once you reach a certain point, it's like I'm not coming in there and telling them how to play or how to hit the ball. Like I'll watch what's going on, say in a match, or practice. We'll run drills and stuff, but like I'll watch what's going on the court, and then during changeovers or like during points and stuff, I'll kind of be like, you got to go more deep, high to his backhand, and try to come in. So it's a lot more with them and just college kids in general. I think it's more strategy talk. Like, how are you going to match up with the opponent? How are you going to play? Like, what weaknesses does he have? It's not as much like where if you're teaching, like intermediate beginner players or whatever. It's more about technical aspects of the game.
It's much more context, strategic,
or mental,
what you need to do. Yeah,
right. Like staying focused. Like high energy. Let's execute this play. Have an idea. Just more tactical strategy versus like actually talking about technical aspects of swinging and hitting the ball. So that becomes secondary. Like once you get to that point.
Yeah, I would assume you're just making sure that they also feel confident, and you're in a situation where they're like, okay, I trust this guy's voice. That's the big thing. He's not going to steer me wrong. That's the biggest thing I think on a higher level of coaching is just making sure they trust the person that they're listening to, because everybody can play tennis at that level. It doesn't matter. It matters that, okay, this person can see some things that I can't see strategically, and he's going to offer me incredible amount of advice with a minimal amount of words. You don't have to say much on that level, and that's the big key.
I think it's relatability too, which is good. Like, sometimes you'll get coaches who are not as relatable. So I'm saying if you can like be a relatable kind of person to them and say like, oh, I've kind of went through this before, and I see what's going on, and you just sort of, to me, that's a big thing too, just in terms of just trying to like relate to them.
So think about you. Think about on your side. What have you learned better as a coach, being there? Is there any other things you said? Well, I don't need to do this, this, and this. Where have you felt like you've grown as a coach a bit doing this?
Yeah, I think my style tends to be like I don't want to go in and change a lot, especially with them. Like I'll kind of give my opinion and see how it sits with them about, say, something that's going on in the match, or even like technically a little bit, and say, let's try to look at this. Let's try to, it's more of consulting almost. Like I'm not going to go in and say, hey, you got to do this.
Yeah.
And the coaches up there, they're not like that either. They're older, they've been around a while, but they're not like saying, it's more about, this is what I'm seeing. What do you think about this? Let's see if we can work on that. Not like, this is how you have to play.
Sure.
And if you don't, you're off the team. So it's hands-on in a way because we're trying to make them better and help out, but it's also a little hands-off too, because it's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to try to give my opinion and guidance and see how you kind of go with that.
Well, it seems like the academy is great because usually the biggest discipline you're trying to do is make sure their attitude and effort are good. Sometimes even on a college level, you'll get kids that are showing bad effort, but it seems like you don't have to deal with that situation. They're just ready to give effort. Some kids just, on a college level, sometimes they'll dog it and they won't work simply.
Getting full scholarship, they're just, there's other factors that come in, but these guys are just, which I expected going into it. I'm like, you're not gonna have kids who are just making issues and not doing, it's gonna be pretty solid.
How do they do in the fall season? How was their success rate in these invitationals?
It was pretty good. I think if you talk to the coaches, they would say it could have been better overall result-wise, but it was 3 or 4 invitationals, like no dual matches. We hosted a couple. And then, I thought it was pretty good. Spring season actually starts next week because they have a shorter break. And then the first weekend we'll have something is the MLK weekend.
What's the goal for the team, you think?
Win the Patriot League.
Win the Patriot
Very
League.
Very clear. Very clear goal.
Do they have a shot
them
at
and
that?
Navy. It's been, last year it's been, they basically, it's like them and Navy, then you have like Lehigh and Boston U, and a couple, but it's basically the goal is to win the Patriot League.
Now, my ignorance here, I don't know.
Yeah.
All school is free because they serve, so it doesn't even matter with college. There's no scholarships because everything's free.
Well, and they get paid.
And they get they do get paid
on top of being free. Yeah.
Okay.
Is
that new to the NCAA, or they get paid anyways? The cadets.
I'm pretty sure that the cadets get paid anyway. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that they get paid on top of being free school. So in exchange for the service term. So.
What's the service term for them? Was it 2 years, 5 years, like the Navy? I don't even know. That's just...
I don't know the exact amount of years. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do. But
Okay.
it's, whatever their commitment is,
I wonder
post-college.
how many, like, what's the UTR level of the highest player?
Their range is probably mostly in the 11s.
11s.
The top guy's probably like a 12-1 or 12-2.
So you'll lose the higher end because obviously kids don't want to serve, right? You're going to get a kid that it's going to go to Duke or whatever.
Yeah, somebody
somewhere.
who's like a 13 or 14
Yeah.
is not going to Army,
Yeah,
which
okay.
is fine. But it's like they're pretty really good level,
Yeah.
and but I would say the average is in the 11s.
Okay.
Like the starters and stuff is probably like in the 11 to 12 range.
So it's very competitive, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's super.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're talking like we're not talking 9s. 11's a
Yeah.
big difference between a 9.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Any other things that you would recommend to students playing to be able to make a college team? Like, you need the physical attributes, but any other intangibles for kids to know and say, okay, if I want to do this, this is what I have to be.
I just think it's got to come from the player.
Yeah.
More, I say, like in stories that I know of where it was forced on the kid, it doesn't work out long term. I just think, even for me, for my example, like my parents were supportive, but never made me feel like I have to do this.
Okay.
So I think being supportive as like a parent or a coach or whatever is great, but not saying you have to do this, you have to play 6 hours a day, you have to. So it's really, to me, when you talk about like going to that point, it's got to come from the kid and the player. But with that said, if you decide to make a decision, say, I want to play in college, they're not going to hand it to you.
Yeah.
So you have to put in the effort. If you say, like, I'm going to play once or twice a week and play in high school and play club, and you have to, your effort level with that is going to match what you're going to come out with. So you don't have to play in college, but if you make that decision, like, don't expect to do it playing once a week.
But I think we talked about this, Santi, before. It's 1%. Like, if you realize out of 100 kids that play in high school, 1 will play in college.
Yeah.
So that parents need to realize that and kids need to realize that. It's not easy. The next level to play in college is incredibly exclusive. It's very hard. And if you don't start, what was the other stat? If you don't start or play freshman year, you're not playing.
Yeah.
Usually you're not. You're just not going to be on the team. If you're a walk-on and you luckily get on the team, I don't know, that percentage is like, it's ridiculous how nil it is. So just have some self-awareness too, right? That's the big thing. Don't come in here and go, oh, I'm going to play in college. Realize the percentages and the numbers. Goals are great, but understand it, be aware of it, realize how much work it's going to be and how much effort it is. Like, we had kids play at Christmas today. What was it? What's today? 4 days ago. Christmas and Saturday. The days run together. They're playing a tournament. They played twice in one day, and these guys are 12 and a half UTRs and 13s, and they're practicing twice a day on Christmas. So there's no mystery about it, right? Their parents aren't driving them here. They're in college, and they're getting here. They need to play, and they don't even want to waste a day because most clubs are closed on Christmas. Luckily, we happen to be open and to be able to play, and those kids are like, can I play? And that's a big deal. That extra time, think about the extra 4 or 5 hours you can play a week.
Starting January 7th.
Besides that person, your competitor not doing that. Those things, on those small margins where someone's a 12 and a half and someone's a 12-1, those are a big deal. And so realize it's just a matter of just this slight little margin that's going to make you beat somebody in the third set of a conference final or not. So, but, I always end up having a PSA here of telling people it's very, very difficult. Don't do it. It's pain. It's hell. We're talking about running a business same. But thinking about the business part, a lot of these Army, Navy, Air Force cadets end up running businesses because they're so disciplined and focused. It's amazing. They end up being very successful in business because they will just outwork everybody. And most of the time, on the tennis court, if you have physical ability and you're above that threshold, you just got to outwork the other person.
Yeah.
And there's no mystery to it. It's just outworking, out-hustling, working every day, working 80 hours a week, working 90 hours. There's no magic theory like Branford Marsalis, or Wynton Marsalis, who's oh my God, I should know this, great trumpet player who is the head of Lincoln Center. They asked him, why are you so talented? People would ask him this question. You're an incredible trumpet player. what's the mystery? He goes, nothing. I lock myself in my room and I practice for 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like people don't want to hear that. They want to hear,
quick fix.
Take this pill and you'll be like Bradley Cooper in Limitless and you'll know everything in 2 seconds and solve every problem. Right, Ruthie? Right. Yep. You don't have to shake your head. No one can see it. So you don't want to talk about it. But, Mike, it's good. It's good to get a little idea of how hard it is, how much discipline it takes, and how much work it takes to play on this level. And, again, Army is not like, they're not tops in the nation, and it's very difficult, and it's very hard. So think about it that way. I mean, you're not dealing with a team like USC or UCLA or Stanford or Georgia. Forget it. I mean, but...
and I think, too, it's like... obviously, if you're trying to play on that level, it's great, it's awesome. But I think more so, like, you come to realize that you don't want to kill the love for the sport.
Sure.
So that not every, like you said, it's 1%. It doesn't make it where, like, if you don't make it to Army or wherever that you've like failed or you're shouldn't play tennis anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of look at it. I'm like. So that's where, when it comes from the kid, to me, you have a better chance of that. You see sometimes, like, kids get pressured into playing, and then after college, they don't pick up a racket ever again because they're just burnt out and they can't stand the sport anymore because they've been forced to do it and they don't want anything to do with it. Where if it comes from you, then it's like, I actually want to do this, so even after college is over, if I don't play in college, like, I'm still going to play throughout our whole life. And then at the end of the day, for, like, us and everybody who's involved, it's like, that's really what you want. You don't want people, like, quitting at 23, so... I think you put it in perspective, like, either way.
You can play, people play club all the time. It's very fun, too. I mean, you can play club in a Division I school.
Level.
It's huge. It's great. Like, you play club at Michigan, and you're playing real tough tennis. I mean, so there's many of avenues to play. Don't feel like if you don't make your college team, it's going to be over for you. So, yes, Son, do you have any questions for Mike? No, Mike, you a little shy today. Son's usually a big talker in these, Mike.
Let's shift to pickleball.
Let's shift to pickleball.
What do we got?
We went over pickleball. We did that. We did cover that. We went pros and cons with CJ, Mike.
Okay,
on pickleball.
I would love to see that.
I'd love to see that. But I think that's it. Just basically a little snippet of college life and what to do. And thanks for the time, Mike. See you guys. Check out the podcast. See ya. Hey, everybody. Hope you like the podcast. Please share it with your friends. Anybody that you know, anybody that's into tennis, anybody that's into bettering themselves, share it.